everyone. Today we are going to be introducing immunology, which is essentially the study of the immune system. You will want to have with you a copy of this worksheet that you can see here. You will also want some coloring utensils and writing utensils. Let's start with a definition of immunity. Immunity is a condition that permits innate, which means inborn, and acquired, meaning developed, resistance to pathogens. So again, immunity is a condition that permits innate or inborn and acquired or developed resistance to pathogens. Pathogens are bacteria, viruses, fungi, and parasites that cause disease and illness. Some of these are living things, and one of these is a non-living thing. Can you guess which is which? So the examples of living types of pathogens include bacteria, fungi, and parasites. The non-living example of a pathogen is a virus. So viruses are considered to be non-living things even though they do contain DNA and RNA. Let's talk about the defenses that your body has to prevent these pathogens from entering your body. Your first layer of defense is your skin. Did you know that your skin is your biggest organ in your body? Your skin plays a really important role in protecting the delicate and fragile interior of your body from dangerous pathogens. The second defense of your body is mucus. The mucus that lines your respiratory tract is really important in trapping and containing pathogens from entering deeper into your body. Did you know that you produce over a liter of mucus every day? Gross. The third defense of your body are cilia. Cilia are a cell organelle that we learned about in trimester 1. And some cells in your body have these hair-like cilia projections on their cells, and they basically trap any kind of pathogen that might be invading your body. So say, for example, you have these cells that are lining your esophagus or your nose, and say you inhale something and that thing might travel and then get trapped in these cilia, and then they can help degrade that pathogen before it infects your cells. Another defense of your body is your stomach acid. Say you eat some food that is contaminated with bacteria or fungi or viruses, your stomach acid plays an important role in helping neutralize those invading pathogens. Another defense is behavior, both voluntary behavior and involuntary behavior. An example of involuntary behavior, which is something you do not control, is sneezing. Sneezing, it occurs when you inhale something that essentially tickles the cilia and triggers your body to try to expel that thing that you inhaled out of your body. Hand washing, we've learned, is really important. The purpose of hand washing is to essentially make your hands slippery using soap, and it helps the bacteria and parasites, fungi, and viruses slide off your skin. And last but not least are the specialized immune system cells that we'll be learning about over the next couple of days. So just to recap, you have a number of defenses that help protect your body from bacteria, fungi, parasites, and viruses. This includes skin, mucus, cilia, stomach acid, behavior, and your specialized immune system cells. Now let's learn about the organs of the immune system. You're probably familiar with some of these, but some of them may also be new. Your adenoid glands are located in the roof of your mouth, right behind the soft palate where the nose connects to the throat. They play a really important role in producing antibodies and white blood cells that help fight infections. They are also responsible for trapping pathogens. The tonsils are also located in your mouth towards the back of your throat. Some of you may have had to have your tonsils out because your immune system might have been overreacting to certain pathogens, causing your tonsils to get inflamed. So tonsils are considered to be a first defense against inhaled pathogens. They trap things that you inhale, but you can survive without them. And again, sometimes our immune systems might be overreactive to things, which means they might cause the tonsils to get inflamed and therefore need to be removed. The thymus, sometimes called the thymus gland, is an organ of the immune system that produces T cells. So emphasizing the capital T for thymus, thinking about T cells. And you'll be learning more about what T cells are starting tomorrow. But T cells essentially are one of the most important cells of your immune system. Next are the lymph nodes and capillaries. You'll notice that I labeled lymph nodes in two places. Here's one, mainly pointing to the capillaries here, but these concentrated circles here found in the armpits, next to the groin, these are lymph nodes. And lymph nodes are really important because they filter lymph fluid. You know that blood flows through your veins. Well, you have a fluid that flows through lymph capillaries and nodes, and this lymph fluid is very rich in your white blood cells that are essentially your immune system cells. So this lymph highway system connects to these concentrated areas with lymph fluid. And lymph fluid is a clear fluid, and essentially its job is to filter pathogens and to contain white blood cells that are destroying pathogens as you're exposed. This is why when you get sick, you might have swollen lymph nodes under your armpit next to your groin and sometimes on the sides of your neck. So if you go to the doctor and they feel in your neck, you actually have some lymph nodes concentrated there as well. So lymph filters and circulates white blood cells through these capillaries, and they're also concentrated at certain parts of the body. Next is the spleen. The spleen, believe it or not, is a really important organ. It has a number of functions, including filtering the blood. It removes old and worn out red blood cells. It helps produce antibodies that provide protection against things that you've been exposed to. It produces and stores your white blood cells, and it helps remove antibody-coated pathogens. We'll learn more about what that is later, but essentially your spleen is a really important filter. Next is your appendix. Your appendix is located on the end of your large intestine, and it plays an important role in storing healthy bacteria. For a long time, the function of the appendix was not well understood, and only within the past 10 years have we come to understand that it serves a role in the storage of healthy bacteria. So say, for example, someone is sick with the flu, their immune system is exhausted after waging a battle against the flu virus. This appendix, which stores healthy bacteria, can help replenish and rebuild the immune system. Now, it is possible to survive without your appendix. Some of you may have had an appendectomy, which is the removal of the appendix because sometimes it gets inflamed. Yes, you can easily survive without your appendix. It just means that your recovery after a major infection might be a little bit slowed because you don't have this backup storage of healthy bacteria. And last but certainly not least is your bone marrow. Your bone marrow is the spongy tissue inside some of your bones. For example, your hip bones and your long bones of your legs. And it's really important because this bone marrow contains stem cells. And stem cells essentially can differentiate into lots of different types of cells for your body, especially the red blood cells that carry oxygen through your body, and the white blood cells that essentially are part of your immune system. So the bone marrow is a spongy tissue that is what's responsible for production of your red blood cells and white blood cells. Now that we have learned about the defenses of the immune system and the organs of the immune system, let's talk about the two major divisions of the immune system response and the types of specialized cells present in each. There are two major divisions of the immune system response. The first is called innate, and the second is called adaptive. Let's start with the innate immune system response. The innate immune system is the one you are born with. So everyone is born with the same type of response to invading pathogens. The innate immune system includes the defenses we listed on the previous page. For example, your skin, your cilia on your cells, so on and so forth. The innate immune system is also the first line of defense. These are the cells that react immediately upon detection of an invader. It produces an immediate response. So as soon as you get a paper cut and there are pathogens entering your bloodstream, these cells of this innate immune system immediately react. This response is called nonspecific because it reacts to every pathogen exactly the same. So it is not specific to a specific type of pathogen. For example, you will always develop a fever as part of your innate immune system, regardless of whether it's a cold or whether it's an infection, so on and so forth. Now, if the innate immune system is not enough, and say, for example, the infection continues, then it will activate the adaptive immune response, which is the second line of defense. Let's go through these four major cell types in the innate immune response. Now, I should mention that the immune system includes more cell types than the ones we're going to be learning about, but we're going to try to keep it simple with four major cell types of the innate immune response. Furthermore, today will just be a quick introduction to the names of these cell types, and we'll learn more about the details of each tomorrow. So don't worry about writing down too many details other than the name. The first cell that I want to talk about is the neutrophil. The neutrophil looks unique because it has a trilobed nucleus. What's cool about the neutrophil is that it's one of the most numerous types of innate system response cells. It makes up 40 to 60% of the white blood cells in your body. These are the first cells to arrive on the scene when you experience, for example, a bacterial infection. They have a super short lifespan, living on average only 8 hours, and your body makes roughly 100 billion of these types of cells every day. Neutrophils address foreign invaders by eating them, which is a process called phagocytosis, and this is a job shared by some of the other immune system cells as well. But basically, its job is to respond really quickly and to start eating things that are invading the body. The second type of cell we're going to learn about is called a mast cell. Mast cells are found in your bone marrow and around the blood vessels in your body. And when you're exposed to stress or danger, or if you have a pathogen invading your bloodstream, your mast cells will respond by releasing substances called mediators. And these mediators cause inflammation. So for example, histamines. So if your mast cells are activated, they release these histamines, which I symbolize by drawing lots of orange dots. And these histamines will essentially cause inflammation and swelling and redness. And you'll learn more about this function tomorrow. One cool thing about mast cells is the fact that they are overactive for people who have allergies. So for example, I am allergic to almost everything outside, and so my body thinks these harmless things are dangerous, and so it activates my mast cells. So my mast cells are producing tons and tons of histamines, which causes inflammation and swelling and redness and irritation. So I take allergy drugs called antihistamines to basically prevent my mast cells from releasing histamines. Cool. The third type of cell we're going to be learning about is called the macrophage. Now, the name of macrophage will give you a clue as to its job. Macro means big, phage referring to phagocytosis and eating things. Basically, the macrophage is a big eater. Its job is to control the fluids and the tissues of the body and gobble up and eat any invaders that do not belong. The last cell of the innate immune system that we are going to talk about are called dendritic cells. The prefix dender refers to tree-like branches. So you can actually see that the shapes of a dendritic cell is quite unique in comparison to the neutrophil, mast, and macrophage cells. The dendritic cell has these extensions that branch outwards like tree branches. The job of the dendritic cell is to essentially help activate the adaptive immune response. So it is what will be called an antigen-presenting cell. Don't worry too much right now about what that means. You'll learn more about it tomorrow. But basically, its job is to activate the adaptive immune response. So I'm going to draw an arrow pointing here. Now, the macrophage also plays this role. So not only is the macrophage a big eater, but it can also do the same thing as a dendritic cell and activate the next part of the adaptive immune response. So in a nutshell, your innate immune system has 4 major cells that we are going to be learning about. You've got the neutrophil, the mast cell, the macrophage, and the dendritic cell. Let's talk about the adaptive immune response. So let's go over the descriptors of the adaptive immune response. The adaptive immune response gets stronger due to exposure. So this is why, for example, kids who are raised in environments where they play outside, they play in the dirt, they're exposed to other kids, their immune responses are actually stronger than kids who did not get dirty or were not exposed to other kids because they've been exposed to more types of pathogens. The adaptive immune response is the second line of defense. And it also has a delayed response. The adaptive immune response is very specific, meaning it develops a response according to every specific pathogen that you might be exposed to. And last but not least, the adaptive immune response requires activation. We'll talk about that process coming up. So in the middle of our Venn diagram, you can see that there's a cell that kind of is in between the two immune responses. And this type of cell is called the helper T cell. This helper T cell is essentially the messenger from the innate immune response that is used to activate the adaptive immune response. So the dendritic cell and the macrophage of the innate immune response can both activate these helper Ts. These helper T cells can then activate two different lines of defense within the adaptive immune response. Let's talk about those two major divisions. So within the adaptive immune response, one of the two divisions within adaptive is the humoral response. And this essentially takes place in the blood. So your helper T cell will activate cells called plasma B cells. The name plasma B essentially comes from the fact that these cells are found in the blood plasma. And these plasma B cells will start producing antibodies that have a really important job in essentially responding to specific invaders. And at the end of this process, they can create memory B cells that provide immunity if you get exposed to the exact same pathogen again. We will talk more about this process in a couple of days, so don't worry too much about the details. Just recognize that plasma B cells, antibodies, and memory cells are associated with the adaptive immune response for now. Now there's a second response with part of the adaptive immune response. Let's talk about that. The second type of response as part of the adaptive immune response is called the cell-mediated response. The cell-mediated response basically means that you have cells called killer T cells, also known as cytotoxic T cells. And these killer T cells have a very important job. Their job is to essentially use a chemical projectile to explode any cells that are producing the pathogens or the pathogens themselves. And then at the end of the response, your killer T cells can form memory T cells. So similar to the memory B cells, if you get exposed to the exact same pathogen again, your memory T cells will immediately start producing these chemical projectiles to cause the explosion of any infected cells. Again, we'll learn more about this process in a couple of days, but I just want you to recognize that plasma B cells and killer T cells are part of the adaptive immune response. So, to review and to conclude this set of notes, you've learned about two major divisions of the immune system response. The first is called the innate immune response. It's something you're born with, it's your first line of defense, it's immediate, and it responds to everything exactly the same. Some examples of cells here include the mast, neutrophil, dendritic, and macrophage cells. Now, if this is not enough to call the reaction that's taking place or to stem the infection, the innate immune system will then activate the helper T cells, which will then activate the adaptive immune system. The adaptive immune system gets stronger as you're exposed to more things. It's the second line of defense. It has a delayed reaction because it needs to be activated when needed. It forms specific reactions to specific invaders, and that is it in a nutshell. We will cover more of these over the next couple days. Tomorrow we'll focus just on the innate immune system, and then in a couple days we'll focus just on the adaptive immune system. If you have any questions or need any support, make sure you're using the corresponding Quizlet sets. We'll also provide some follow-up videos, and you can also message us anytime you have questions or need help. Thanks and take care.